But rest assured that I am with you, and even though we're a ways down the process, that we should not give up. In fact, my motto is never give up.
Yeah.
The fight is not over, and I will outline some things that I think that we can work on and continue to do to hopefully stop this unnecessary line. I applaud all of you for your interest and being engaged in this. And Dennis, I want to thank you. You have been untiring in your efforts, and Donna Tisdale and many others. I have never seen the numbers of groups, and I mean powerful organizations, that have come together to fight a cause before in this region. And I've never seen so many people united. So let me talk just a moment about the process. To me, this process was unprecedented and very confusing for me, for all of us. And I think a lot of you here tonight can testify to that. Nobody ever thought that would be here fighting against a line going through the El Monte Valley. This was the single largest environmental impact report that was ever done in the history of the state of California on any project. 7,500 pages of an environmental document, 6 volumes. I mean, it was huge. It analyzed the preferred route through the Anza Borrego Desert State Park and down through the Santa Isabel Valley, and as Dennis told you, that's how he got involved in this. That was the preferred route, always was until recently the preferred route. It was SDG&E's preferred route. But it also, in that document, it analyzed 27 alternative routes, including the no project alternative, which is the one that should have been voted on and approved by the CPUC. All the routes combined impacted dozens and dozens of communities, and most all of those communities, overwhelming communities in the supervisorial district, which I represent. The evidence, in my opinion, speaks for itself, and it's not just my opinion. If you read all of that document, those 7,500 pages, I won't ask you if you have or not, but the evidence is there. And one of the commissioners, Commissioner Greenwich, was the one that finally in the end made a recommendation that if this line was to go through, then they should condition the construction of the line on putting 33% renewables over the line. Not even 100%, but 33% renewables, like SDG&E said that they were going to do in the first place. SDG&E said, no, we will not accept that. I have no reason to believe that there will be any renewables going across this line. In fact, to the contrary, as Dennis alluded to, that I think this line really is to bring energy up from Mexico from a fossil fuel plant that is owned by Sempra, the parent company of SDG&E. And there's no intention of bringing renewables. I can talk about that in a moment. In the environmental document itself, said it came to the same conclusion that I came to a long time ago, all of the opposition came to, that we do not need this line to meet San Diego region's energy demands now or into the future. Clear and convincing evidence. The line is not needed. So after all the research, all the science that had been performed, years of studies on animals, plants, hydrology, geology, very sophisticated fire modeling, by the way, the experts found the line is not needed. The California Public Utilities Commission approved it anyway. Why did they do that? How could they ignore that evidence? Well, I'll tell you. In my opinion, those commissioners are appointed by none other than the governor. And the governor, in an unprecedented action, wrote a letter to the CPUC. And it was the president of the CPUC that actually led the charge to approve the route that is now before us. Fire danger. This was an issue that I testified to over in Borrego. There were 4 of the 5 public utility commissioners at that meeting. And I said to them, if you ignore all else in this environmental document, and by the way, there are only a couple of pages in the 7,500 page report that talked about fire and fire danger, but I pleaded with them, if you ignore everything else in there, pay attention to what it says about the fire risk of this line. And it was real clear. It said that the fire danger cannot be mitigated. Cannot be mitigated. That means there is nothing that SDG&E could do to change the results of the conclusion. It said that no matter what precautions SDG&E takes, that the fire danger posed by the line can't be eliminated. It was rated as the highest threat risk possible. And the fire danger is there in black and white, spelled out in the environmental document. And this line, not only will it create a higher fire risk where this line is located, but also it will hinder and prevent fire officials from making water drops and ground crews from dousing flames near the line. They ignored that, unfortunately. I hope that wasn't for me. We're all facing a Goliath opponent. I've characterized this fight as a David and Goliath fight. SDG&E is owned by Sempra Energy. If you looked at the business section of the paper today, you'll see that Sempra is doing quite well financially. They're a member of the big oil lobby. And folks, that's as big as it gets. SDG&E representatives sit on numerous boards of industry groups and trade groups, downtown chambers of commerce, other chamber of commerce, other East County groups. They not only sit on these groups as members of their boards, but they donate lots of money in the community to various organizations. And if you go to SDG&E's Sunrise Powerlink website, you'll see the groups that are supportive of the line follow the money. I would suggest to you that because SDG&E and Sempra have been very successful in donating lots of money to chambers of commerce, that they have bought influence, not just locally, but at the state level. And to me, that's a crying shame, and we should not stand for that. Also, and I pointed out at a hearing, Board of Supervisors, that many of these groups and individuals, some elected officials in our region that early on supported the line, they did it even before the environmental documents were completed. They didn't even know what the facts are. They didn't care to know what both sides were. Their vote was bought, in my opinion. Another thing that I observed that's happened, communities were pitted against communities. SDG&E wanted the northern communities to say, put it in the south. And they wanted southern communities to say, put it in the north. In other words, not in my backyard. It didn't work because the communities stuck together. And as Dennis and Donna Tisdale can tell you, communities were smarter and they refused to let SDG&E divide them. And instead, we did the math, we determined that the line wasn't needed at all. So together, we've not only been fighting for the last 3 years, but we'll continue the fight. And then let me touch on again the fact that the renewable claim is what I would classify as a fossil fuel lie. How about that? In one of my earliest meetings with SDG&E, and I met with them and I talked with them, I asked them, SDG&E basically would rather build experimental dishes in the desert than put solar on your roof. And there's a reason for that. And I contend, and I made this comment in my State of the County address, and I've shared it with other folks, you know, think about it for a moment. Imagine with me if we took for month to month, but at the end of the year, guess what? SDG&E gets it. You don't get it. We need the change in the law, and we're working on that again this year to make sure that at the end of the year, you, the homeowner that makes the investment, gets